Hello guys, it's me Nnoitora, and in this video we'll talk about the relationship between Nnoitora and Nel and why it is like this. The reason why I wanted to make this video was because one of the fans asked Kubo about the nature of this relationship. He said that no matter how he tries to read the manga, he didn't understand that relationship, so he hoped that Kubo would explain it, to the point that an idiot like him would be able to understand it. However, Kubo didn't give him the answer he wanted, but he told him this. And regardless of the fans' request and Kubo's answer, let us delve together deeper into this topic, because this is what I find to be one of the reasons of superiority of the Arrancar characters over the Quincy characters, is Kubo's depth in their personalities and their relationships with each other. It is true that Kubo shed light on some of the stories of the Espada and their followers, such as Halibel and her 3 followers, or Grimijo and his relationship with Xiaolong and the rest of those who were with them, or Stark and Lilinit. But when it comes to the history of Espadas together, it was especially notable between Nnoitora and Nel. That's why guys, let's start talking about Nel and Nnoitora and how Kubo presented them in the story. Initially, Kubo kept Nnoitora and Nel separate, making it hard to imagine any connection between them. However, he was meticulously planning their stories to intertwine. For example, from the beginning we learned that Nnoitora is an Espada when he sat with the rest of the other Espada to attend the meeting chaired by Aizen Sasuke regarding the entry of Ichigo and the rest. Notice with me where Nnoitora was sitting. He was sitting next to Halibel, which was at the time the 3rd Espada, the same rank that Nel was previously in. Not all of this, but there was some kind of minor arguments between Nnoitora and Halibel. And speaking about the appearance of Nnoitora, I can say that his features is like a sadistic and hateful person. He said that Ichigo and those with them seemed weak. However, Halibel responded to him in a way like that of an adult who sees the words of the other just the words of a child who doesn't know what he's saying. And this was like a reference from Kubo to Nnoitora's complex towards women in general, which we will explore later. But returning to Nnoitora's character, the phobia he had of women didn't stop with Halibel or Nel, but rather extended even with Orihime. Although I say that Nnoitora is one of the characters who most committed very cruel and despicable behavior in dealing with Orihime, it can even be said that Nnoitora's behavior was so cruel that the anime would often change some of his scenes when Nnoitora tried to harm others. In this scene that brought him together with Ulquiorra, I don't know what Nnoitora was doing near to Orihime's room, but this scene and how Kubo depicted Nnoitora's features in shadows and how he was speaking about how Aizen made Ulquiorra take charge of supervising Orihime and how he described her as a pet, he added the word delicious. It seemed to me as if Nnoitora wished that he was the one who supervised Orihime. So I might say that it was lucky for Orihime that this task was taken by Ulquiorra. I mean, just imagine with me that the one who's supervising Orihime is Nnoitora. It's totally a nightmare. But Ulquiorra spoke also about the fear of Nnoitora that he had of Orihime in her power, to the point that Nnoitora thought that Aizen used Kyoka's Wigitsu in order to control Orihime, something which Ulquiorra denied. On the other hand, it's not possible to pinpoint exactly one thing that would allow us to say that's the reason for Nnoitora's behavior. But there is one, and it's clear, which is that Nnoitora doesn't like to feel that others are treating him with kind of pity, and he experienced this a lot with Nel, who thought he had gotten rid of her once and for all. But what Nnoitora didn't know was that among those who were coming to last notice was Nel in her child form. And speaking about Nel in her child form, the thing that I like about her is not just her personality, but Peasky and Nononchaka also. Because when Nel was in her little form for the first time, she had lost her memory and didn't know anything. What she does know is that she has always been child and her life has always been that way. Unlike Peasky and Nononchaka, they knew the whole truth, the truth about Nel and the danger she was in and might be in. However, they decided to protect her in their own way. And I love such characters who try to hide all that weight of memories and the past for the sake of providing a suitable environment for those they love and appreciate, like Isshin Kurosaki or Isshin Shiba, and this is why he is one of my favorite characters. On the other hand, in returning to Nnoitora and his extreme behavior that seemed clear in several places in the story, the most prominent of which is that he doesn't have any mercy in his heart. No matter the person is, whether he is weak, child, strong, he will try to kill him. For example, we saw how he went to Shadow and attacked him. Even though he knew that he's not strong, he also did the same thing with Grimijo. Grimijo, who had just went from a fierce battle with Ichigo. Nnoitora hit him hard and wanted to kill him if it hadn't been for Ichigo's intervention. In addition to this, among the cruelest scenes that shows Nnoitora's brutality is what he did to Orihime and how he made her watch Ichigo being subjected to the utmost types of torture by his follower Tisla, to the point that in the anime, as I said, some scenes related to Nnoitora were changed. For example, in this anime scene, we see Nnoitora placing his hand on Orihime's mouth, whereas in the manga he was placing his 2 fingers inside her mouth. Even Nnoitora's meeting with Nel in her young form, many scenes were changed in the anime because they were harsh scenes for an adult dealing with a child. Therefore, I can say that all of Nnoitora's aggressive behavior is due to the lack of something inside him, which relates to how others see him. The thing that Nnoitora hated the most was when the others looked at him with pity, as if he were a small child. He wanted to show the others that he was strong, but the way he speaks, his behavior, and his strength collide with characters stronger than him in terms of strength as well as personality. And this is why Nnoitora's behavior, which was aggressive from the beginning, became more intense when he met Nel's character. And we don't know exactly when their first meeting took place, but it was at a time when Nnoitora was still at the 8th Espada and Nel was the 3rd Espada. And I believe that this problem wouldn't have increased between Nnoitora and Nel if Aizen and Sasuke hadn't sent them on missions together. That's why I said that Nnoitora's relationship, for example, with Halibel wasn't the same as it was with Nel, because it seemed clear that Nnoitora and Halibel had no joint business, unlike Nel. And in one of the flashbacks that we saw, one of the tasks of Nel and Nnoitora was to search for the Vasta Law. And of course, you can imagine the amount of differences that exist between the two. First, Nel is the 3rd Espada, Nnoitora is the 8th, and therefore she is stronger than him, and therefore she will have authority over him, and she will issue orders and instructions, and this is something that Nnoitora will not tolerate. On the top of this, Nel is a female and Nnoitora is a male. So how can Nnoitora's mind accept that a woman is stronger than him? And that's not all of that. Nel is not a barbaric girl or a criminal. No, she is the opposite of all Nnoitora's lack of mercy in harming others. Even her appearance, her voice, her movements, her reading of books, her care for her servants are all things that make Nnoitora's boil with hatred for the presence of such person next to him. Therefore, I find that Nel's relationship with Nnoitora, it's like the relationship of a big, mature and strong sister and her foolish little brother, full of hatred and malice. All of this makes him feel a kind of weakness and despair. Perhaps this page shows the reality of Nel and Nnoitora's situation when he told her why she is always next to him, even though she knew that he hates her. Nel's answer was clear: because you are weaker than me. And that answer, or its content, was what made Nnoitora feel insulted, and based on it he would do anything just to climb the ranks and be stronger, and how it doesn't matter, even if that meant using nasty methods like when he enlisted the help of Zaylo Apollo to defeat Nel. Perhaps Kobo's drawing of this wonderful page explains Nnoitora's path, how he stands on the corpses of hundreds of Hollows and Arankaras, whom he killed without mercy in order to be at the top. So guys, what about your own vision of Nnoitora and his relationship with Nel? Tell me in the comments, and see you guys in my next video.